Excellent, and welcome to, I guess we could call it TADSummit Innovators or TADHack Innovators. Just a little bit of context before we chat with Suraj and Dave. Suraj was part of a team that won at TADHack Open in March. Now, he was hacking on vCon. So we have the father of vCon here, Thomas. Thomas, how are you?
Great. How are you? It's good seeing all of you again.
And the great thing from that win, he then was contacted by Dave and he got a summer intern project. So this is just showing hacking is teaching you important, relevant skills that then can get you projects in industry. So that's one of the reasons why I want to make this happen. But anyway, let's get down to the details, which is not me talking, which is Dave and Raj sharing what they've been getting up to over this summer. So Dave, please. Let us know what's been going on.
Okay, thanks. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Alan, and sort of leapfrog off of what you said, because TADHack is really an incredible resource for me and should be for all open source projects, because, when you're running an open source project, you're running things on a shoestring. So you are competing against commercial companies, much better funded than you, more people. You've got to find a way to do things better, faster, and cheaper. It's an incredibly exciting challenge trying to do that. And key to it is finding really good young people that can learn quickly and do things very effectively and efficiently for you. And I'm amazed in a world where big tech is backing off of equity and inclusion programs. It is so stupid because it's really the secret sauce for a lot of open source companies like mine. I mean, it's a Moneyball kind of thing, trying to find the really talented young people that can do a lot for you very cost effectively. So I'm, if they want to back off, great. I'm sort of all in on trying to find people. We have Raj working for us. Through Raj, we have a friend of his working for us. We have a fellow out of Africa that came through TADHack.
Excellent.
Talent grows everywhere. So I rely on places like TADHack to say it. And Thomas, you sounded like you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think it's one of the really wonderful parts about open source is its ability to penetrate every brain in the world, because there's not that economic barrier. So if you're a bright guy with some skills, you can do stuff.
Yeah.
Right. It's just exactly right.
Yeah. So as far as what we got up to this summer, I'm going to let Raj talk about it mostly because he did everything and I did almost nothing. And in fact, I was not a great boss because we have so much going on. Raj had to be very self-motivated, which he was, which is perfect. Just to give you a brief background on Jambonz and what we were thinking of doing. Jambonz open source platform for using conversational AI, voice AI, what we used to call CPaaS, that all of those spaces. And we get deployed into some very large deployments. We partner with companies like Cognigy and Core. Their voice gateways are Jambonz under the cover. I'm going to just quickly share my screen to give a little bit of context, if I can. So in Jambonz, we always had the ability to record calls, and we wanted to take it one step further with vCon. So in the Jambonz product, you can make calls. You can record. I'm not going to play this call back because I don't have it set up on my phones, but you can see we've got, the audio for the call. We've got a lot of insights as well. We can see the latency. Here we can see speech recognition was 700 milliseconds of latency between when someone stopped talking and the transcript. You can see the transcript. I was saying, yes, what time is the meeting tomorrow? And there's the latency, 0.7 seconds. The confidence score was deepgram. We can see the latency on the text to speech as well. So we sort of had, not to go much into Jambonz, but we have always had recording. And as I say, we wanted to take it to the next step. We spent Raj spent a lot of time this summer working on it, and it's not part of our product yet. So I would say what we did was a lot of experimenting with it because it is a foundational technology that you can deploy in so many different ways. The very first thing we had to think about was, do we want to do real-time vCons, virtualized conversations, or do we want to do things after the fact? And both use cases are things our customers could be interested in. One of our customers came to us and said they have a survey kind of application and they'd like to deliver the surveys right after the call in a standardized format. Bingo, vCons. So that would be case for a real-time one. However, I came at it more interested in what Thomas has, very aptly described as creating data that is sort of food for bots. So in our work at Jambonz, we're deployed and we work with very large enterprises, Fortune 50 enterprises, deploying conversational AI. And you would be surprised, perhaps, to learn that, as far as, and a lot of these are today largely directed conversations, hybrid systems where it's NLU based, and we're seeing LLM come in, but directed dialogues to a certain extent. And there's still, as far as a continuous improvement, there's still a lot of anecdotal kind of evidence that drives things. Hey, a lot of people are complaining that this didn't work, or I tested this, it didn't work. So for me, it was very attractive to say, listen, can we, after the fact, create vCons and do analysis on all the calls today so that we can recognize, hey, in this dialogue, this particular turn of conversation where we try to get out of the product ID, that's where things always go off. And even more, when we use this speech recognizer with it, it tends to be worse, it tends to be better. And tomorrow, let's factor improvements into these call flows and then see how that does, because you don't have day over day continuous improvement yet. To me, the big excitement of vCons was trying to get towards that.
Gotcha.
We didn't complete it this summer because we really struggle and are still struggling with how to package it into our product. So Raj did a lot of the foundational stuff, and he'll show you some of the important stuff we did, trying to figure out JSON schemas for transcriptions, some of the higher level analysis that I talked about. So we haven't figured out how to exactly package it in the product yet, but we did, I think, get a lot of great work done thanks to Raj, and maybe he can show a little bit of it.
Cool. That sounds really great. So Raj, over to you.
Sure. Thanks for that, Dave. I'll just share my screen now. Hopefully it works. Is my screen visible?
We can see it.
Yep, we can see it.
Yes. So just like Dave just presented, this is the Jambonz portal, and you can see recent calls here.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main things I was doing here is testing real-time calls and trying to generate vCons right after the call was being placed. Just to give you an idea about how I was testing these calls, Jambonz also has this dialer being set up where you can create custom applications, make calls to them, and test it, just like just simulating real-time applications, right? So once the call is generated, all of this call is, of course, saved here in on cloud. And right after that, what I did was use this call recording and then generate vCon out of it. As you can already see, there's a lot of information that's already there, part of the portal, which is details of the call, which can easily be integrated into our vCon, including the tracing details as well. But further, what I was to do here, the first problem that we're trying to solve is, hey, take a recording and get a detailed transcript and also redact the whole transcript. After which we'll also create a redacted version of the original audio file, right? And just to give you an idea of how that schema would look like, this is how that would look like. First, we'd go by and say, hey, these were the participants of the call, what type of a call, what are the type of the participants, the ID, the phone number, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
What is the duration of the call? When did the call start? And then the transcript, what vendor was used, the model, and then the various speech events. This is what it, on a very high level, it looks like. And to show you an example that I was testing, this is what it looks like, right? There were two participants. There's the conversation between a human and a machine. The call lasted for this duration. We used DeepGram for the transcription after the fact. And then it was spoken at this time, from this time to this time. You have your sentences. you have word level transcriptions and what happened, for each word. Yeah, and this is sort of how we, plan to pack it up for the transcription after the fact. We had this, and then the original audio completely redacted. So what you see here with hello and thank you for calling some organization, right? That would be completely cut off in the after the fact audio. So this is of course for privacy.
Mhm.
The second thing that we were trying to do was a CX conversation analysis. So the idea here is to see, okay, so transcription is happening both real time and after the fact.
Yeah.
Right? So what we were trying to test is how effective or how different are these real time transcriptions and after the fact transcription, right? So what happens here is, just like that, we have, let's say, a conversation between a human and a machine, right? Where there's a business that has their standard, call setup where, it says, hey, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, and then you wait, or maybe you're waiting to hear a response from the human, and then a bot follows up, and so on and so forth, right? So this is what that looks like, right? We split that up into different turns. So there is an offer from the bot saying, hey, thank you for calling so-and-so. How can I say something after that? And then there's your response. During that response, there is a response, as heard and as transcribed. And this is how we just split it up. And here, I'll just give you an idea of why, what that looks like. Yeah. So you can kind of see here that there are two parts here.
Yeah.
One is the after the fact transcription, which is redacted, which looks like this, right? Hello and thank you for calling some organization. The transcription was, done by DeepGram, and this was Google's as, the real-time transcription. But you can kind of see here that, for example, here, so after the fact, it transcribed as U2, and it was as heard as YouTube, right? So this is, yeah. So that's just the difference between real time and your after the fact. So this kind of gives you a better idea or sense to people, to test out between their real-time transcription and after the fact transcription vendors, maybe a comparison between them, or if something went wrong, in a maybe let's say a customer call where, let's say the system wasn't working properly or was not able to place an order. This is something people could just use and debug and say, okay, here, we didn't get this right. This was actually what is being said. And this is what should have happened, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, this is kind of an important application for it. The other application, of course, is food for the LLM. You give it to the LLM, give a bunch of conversations for a period of 12 hours or 14 hours, and then ask questions like, hey, where did we get most of our calls today? Or what was, what were people mostly complaining about, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so broadly, these are the two things that I was working on, apart from a lot of other work on the Jambonz platform itself, which is a lot of work on SIP, VoIP, and things like that. So it's been a lot of great learning for me.
Excellent.
And yeah, I couldn't be happier.
So how are you feeling about SIP?
So the first week, one of my tasks was to read, about SIP itself from, the white paper, or you call it the
IETF document?
IETF, yeah. I honestly couldn't get through it. It was and Dave did warn me about it, saying that it was pretty dry. It's really hard, and I still don't remember most of the details there. It's just, yeah.
It's a steep hill to climb, but it's really interesting. You were looking at real-time and after-the-fact transcription and the differences between that. In fact, I was talking with Steve Lasker, one of the authors for Skip, around that, because you can provide the vCon instantaneously, as soon as it's recorded, and you can update it later because there could be errors in the speech to text. So yeah, it's really nice that you were able to play with that. And Thomas, do you have any questions for Raj?
Well, yeah, you know what? So first of all, congratulations on your win in March, and congratulations for doing this. This is really, it's a great way of spending a summer for sure.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say was, this is yet another unique tool that the vCon can be, right? I mean, how do you manage the actualities of the processing for the feedback, not only during the call but after the call too? That is, it's amazing how we don't have this as a standard, and I think this is going to really make a huge difference. Stuff just like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was really. Did you find that when you were making the vCon, did you write your own library? Did you use another library?
For now, because we're not using all the components of the original vCon, this was mostly we were only working on transcriptions and what is being said, the actual conversation, and not using a lot of other holders that the vCon provides. It's just a custom schema that I created and wrote on Node, not using the official vCon library for now. Yeah.
Cool thing. Yeah. I had a really fun experience last week where I was doing a called lint. We used to call it back in the day. It's a linter. It makes sure that everything is, it goes through your software. And I did a lint thing for vCons. And the way I did it was I gave Claude, the Anthropic, their LLM, I gave it the vCon spec, and I said, please write me a library that makes sure that the vCon is valid. And boom, it did it right. I'm like.
Yeah, and one of the things we were interested in, participating going forward was which I'm sure is going to happen, is discussions around standardizing some of these things which are not yet standardized within the vCon, because the vCon is meant to be a generic kind of container, tell you what's in container. So we, for instance, came up with our own JSON schema for two-party human bot transcripts. We came up with our own schema for how do we want to break down turns of conversation. It'd be interesting to start engaging in a discussion with people that wanted to do that.
Yeah, that's so when we've you're exactly right, and some people in the IETF will call that the protocol inside the protocol. So the protocol itself is the vCon, and the protocol in the protocol is the schemas that become normal, right? Which you could lose yourself forever in as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, a lot. But I will say that there are a few implementations, and they all have the same kind of. A lot of them have the same sort of pattern of a transcription and a summary-ish thing. And it seems like summaries and transcriptions are at least almost always there. And so the format of the transcription is different, whether or not you did it from Whisper or whatever. So yeah, there are a lot of things we could put in there that'll make it easier for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to I'm going to share my screen one more time, just sort of reemphasize something that Raj said on the second part. The analysis that we were particularly interested in is this sense of, can we break a conversation into turns, and can we then look at any turn and say, did it productively move the conversation forward? Could we even give it a score? So, we came up with the idea that a turn of conversation is going to be some prompt from the user, a response, prompt from a bot, then a response, and a follow-up prompt from the user. And you can look at any turn and you can kind of see, did this move the conversation forward? Mm-hmm. There was an ask, there was a response, and then based on the follow-up, you can tell, well, the conversation went forward or didn't go forward. It went forward, it went backwards, it went off, it didn't. And then the follow-up is also the first prompt of the next turn, but you can look at individual turns and kind of score them and see. So this is an area where if anybody else is interested, we'd love to collaborate on that further and see what we can build out.
Great
Cool.
idea. Great idea.
Absolutely, because that's a great. It's a quality measure in terms of how the conversations are moving through. In fact, Serbi from Symbol AI, she'll be presenting at TADSummit, looking at exactly this type of quality of experience for hybrid. So it's both a bot and a human interacting. Now, I mean, they're doing quite a complex range of measures, but this, in terms of success in moving the conversation forward using turns, I think is a really interesting approach. And again, whenever I'm looking at the IETF standards, you've got all the background, the architecture and the stuff, and then there's use cases. Use cases are always the greatest way to learn, And I sort of look at this as, with some of these schemas, it's almost like a use case. You just pop in there, and then, whether it be like, with Skit, the software builder materials, you pop in, and then that, as you're walking through that, really helps you understand the practical reality of how you basically put all those pieces together. So I think, across, the turn of conversation, across, the obvious stuff in terms of transcription and summarization. Yeah, I mean, there's some standard methods that the sooner they become, not necessarily a standard, but there's like a de facto. There's like, hey, this is the one that we've used, and everybody uses it because it's brought together so much experience, because we really are in the early days of econs. I mean,
Yeah.
But this is exciting. Cool. So again, I'm Thomas. Thank you for being there for TADHack Open and creating a winner with Raj. Well done. Not only winning at TADHack Open, but winning on a summer internship with Jambonz, which I hope sets your career off in the right direction. And of course, Dave, thank you for being willing to bring in some of the TADHack people from over the years to help build Jambonz to what it is today.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Thanks. And, Raj was a bit humble. He did, in answer to Thomas's question, he built this from the ground up with his own code. So
excellent.
Very talented young guy.